hey, we're cool, right? She's like, "Yeah, why?" I'm like, "'Cause I don't know why you recommended me to go see this hairstylist if we're cool, 'cause she just totally messed up my hair." She's like,
Well,
"Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was jerking so hard on the brush, I thought she was gonna, like, take out some issues on my hair.
you're
She's
like
like, "I'm
you're like,
so sorry." No, she's been cutting my hair for, like, 4 years, and she does a great job, and I stood there looking at my friend whose hair is, like, straight as a board and is a bob right here, and I was like, "Yeah, okay."
oh, hold on. You know what I gotta do? I gotta bounce you over here. There we go.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get dizzy now.
I
Okay.
naturally
Very
look
cool.
that way.
Yeah, that's
That
good, that's good. And
that's
we're
better.
live now. Okay, that's good too.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, how
Me
about I was thinking about it. What if we open with prayer this time?
Oh, I love that idea.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's
Lord, I just thank you so much for tonight. Thank you so much for Athena. And just for 2024. It was a wild ride. And it's just been so cool seeing Athena's journey and just like what you've been doing in her life. And Lord, I just thank you for that. I thank you for the way she woke up. I think tomorrow is a year from when the whole idea for this started. And I just love that you moved in her and showed her an idea of like what she could do to change the trajectory of her future and in this area of life, Lord. And it's just cool to celebrate it a year later. And I just pray, Father, for our conversation tonight that it would just be really encouraging for Athena, but then also anyone who's watching this right now or later on. Um, I just pray for our conversation, Lord, that we would just be really sensitive to what it is that you want us to talk about. We would be bold, but we would also be really humble at the same time and just have a really good time hanging out with my sister here. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I love that.
Yeah.
I love your prayers. They're the best.
You're the best. So tomorrow really is a year, right? Was I feel like it was
No,
no? Okay.
let's see, we've got a good 8 days left. So, I mean, yeah, the idea, yeah, it was a year
Not from when you started, but, like, because when you, like,
when I popped the
made the infamous post,
yes,
because it was on my birthday. That's why
yes.
I remember it so well.
Is today your birthday?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, I was like, "Oh my."
You're good.
I was like, "I don't think I missed it." I missed
No, 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 you're
scared the
good, you're
crap
good.
out of me.
Yeah, no, 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 you're good, you're good. No, because I remember being like, "I'll remember this date for sure now." Um, yeah. So you, like, threw down the gauntlet,
I did. I
and
did. It didn't go quite as planned, but it was it was everything that I thought it would be, and the rest of the year definitely evolved in ways that I could not have imagined, so no regrets.
mhm. I love
No
it,
regrets.
I love it.
Yeah.
What have you learned over this last year?
Um, hmm. There's been a there's been a lot of lessons learned in a lot of different areas of life. Um, I think one of the biggest lessons, and this is not the first time I've had to have this lesson, it's the second time actually, but I firmly believe that God has me repeat lessons that I didn't learn the first time. And I
Yes.
firmly believe they're going to keep coming up and they're going to keep repeating themselves until I get it away.
Uh-huh.
And one of the biggest lessons for me this last year was this idea of time. And it's something
Mm,
that I constantly have to remind myself of, like there's certain elements of timing that I don't get to pick. I don't get to choose that. We
mm.
always think that we can, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we don't. So there's that. There's oh gosh, just maybe expectations I have of other people.
Mm,
Learning to rely more on God and it's something that I say I do and I do, but I don't think I do it near enough, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
Um, and
We
then
were
the
just having a conversation about that last night. I have a women's Bible study that meets at my house twice a month, and, um, we're going through that book that you and your mom are doing, and so we were just talking about some of the lies
I
related
love
to
it.
emotions. Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later, but, like, we were just talking about emotions and, just how stuff comes up, and instead of turning to the Lord, we so easily go into go mode. We're just like, "Take care of it. Let's just get like,
Mhm.
take care of whatever just arose," instead of stopping and being like, "Okay, Lord, like, let's take a moment together here."
Yeah. Um, I think for me, it was just, like, and I've learned this multiple times over the last couple of years, like I can do so much if I just freaking do it.
Mhm.
But sometimes that's what it is for me, like it takes something really dramatic. Um, High pressure situations are good for me. They can be bad. And there was
Yeah.
it definitely adds a lot of elements that I wasn't ready for. But
Mm.
overall, it was like, man, I just don't have any regrets about anything. I just don't.
Yeah.
It all had to be exactly how it was. So,
Mm. Mm. That's really cool how you're able to just hold that with open hands and just be really accepting of that.
yeah, yeah. It was the best possible thing that could have happened on every level. It really was. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, do you have as you're looking, to 2025, are the goals shifting or the way you're gonna approach it shifting from how you approached last year?
ooh. The goal itself, no, no.
Mhm.
It's really just I don't know if I tweak anything. It's interesting because I have a check in with Carolyn
Mm.
a few
Mhm.
more days, and the nutrition side, other than making some tweaks in like May, it's just a matter of time. You
Yeah.
know, it just needs more time. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to approach it any different than how I've been doing it. It's like that old phrase, like if it's not broken, don't
Don't
fix it.
fix it. Yeah.
Aside from this, aside from the date that this magic date when this big goal gets to happen, aside from that, I wouldn't there isn't any area that's not going as it should.
Okay. Yeah. Remind everyone what the goal was.
Well, the overarching goal, I was like, the goal last year was to lose 148, but we fell
Mhm.
like 58 pounds shy.
Okay.
Um, it was a lofty goal. It really was. And,
Yeah.
there were some people that were like, are you sure you can pull that off? I'm like, no, I just know that I did it once before. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's different this time. It really is. Like one, there's
Yeah.
not much to lose this time. Your body, when it's close to 500 pounds, is going to shed way differently than it does the lower
Right.
that you get in it. It just is what it is.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be me unless it was some big lofty goal because that's what drives me. It doesn't, at the end of the
Mm.
day, it doesn't matter to me as much if I don't hit it than if I don't set something big and work my butt off to it. Because at the end of the year, I want to look back and say, it wasn't perfect, but I worked my ass off.
Yeah. I was wondering going into this next year, what kicked all of this off was you throwing down the gauntlet to Hiller and being like, "Hey, put the money where your mouth is here. Let's see if you're really right on these things." And you're very highly motivated when, um, how do I put it?
I'm curious what you were going to say.
When you crusade is the wrong word. That's the word that just like popped in, but it's like when there's something like very fiercely you believe in and you think that someone might be doing something wrong in an area, like harming someone else in another area, or you see like what the right thing to do in a situation is and people aren't doing it, you're very fired up and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna help people and we're gonna make this right," you know? And that like really motivates you when you know that you are doing something to help others. And I think a lot of the fire for last year came from this place of I need outside help for me to achieve the goals that I want to achieve. But I'm also really tired of this guy going off and saying the things that he's saying, right? So let's see if he can really
Some of that didn't change.
right. So, but like this is a new year, and so I'm wondering where that motivation is going to come from because you're just in a different space and place and you don't have that driver of, all right, bro, what's up?
Well, okay. We can dissect that a little bit. Let's talk about some of those drivers, because I guarantee you the driver every day when I was working with Hiller was one, I don't want to piss this guy off, but two, there was just as much curiosity on my side though. Like, let's not forget why it started. Like, I felt like, he's a big talker. Is he going to be able to hang for the year? The difference is that like I knew what I was getting into with this year. I knew like the roller coaster, the up and down, all that stuff that I was walking into. The question really was, the challenge was, can you hang? Like, you're telling everybody that all you have to be is consistent and you got to weather the storms and you have to go through all the ups and downs. Can a coach do that as well? Does the coach understand all these little things that you're going to go through? Now, me and Hiller didn't have the time to work together to really go through any of those. Like I never reached out to him as my therapist ever. Like, literally, our conversations were, he would reach out in the morning and he'd be like, okay, what do you weigh? The question every day was, what's the number? It wasn't like, we got to remember, like, it wasn't like, hey, Athena, good job. Like, there was no there wasn't like that stream of attaboys coming. It wasn't like, hey, how you doing? How you feeling this morning? It wasn't like that. It was very like, and that's the way it needed to be for me at the time. Now, in terms of like, like, where am I trying to go? Like, how do I answer this question? Where am I?
I mean, it's just what's your motivation going into 2025? How do you keep that fire in your belly? I know, you'll have people that have conversations around it's not motivation, it's discipline. It's not X, it's Y, and so I think for different people that's a different answer.
You're right. I think it depends on each of us. But I do agree with, like the consistency and the discipline part. Now, if I were to take that question, like, oh, you're not going to be working with this person anymore or whatever, like literally, like, let's be real. It ended as quickly as it started. Like, I was only with Hiller for 7 weeks. There really wasn't long enough to, we never really had anything that happened. Nothing came up that was like, oh, coach, I messed up or didn't go perfect. We never got that far. So the way that I saw it, the rest of the year was just, I'm just working with different coaches, and those coaches were so different that it was really easy. It was really easy just to put that very quick phase. Yeah. Because working with Carolyn and Miranda, the better part of this year now it's just night and day. There's really no comparison.
Yeah.
So it would be, yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that driver, what would you say the drivers are for 2025 for you to continue on this journey?
The drivers were never coaching. like this whole thing started because
No, right. No, but your personal, like
right.
what's inside of you.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
cause what was inside what the fire inside of you, right, was what helped like really you were in a place where you're like, I need outside help to help me continue moving toward this goal because I've been in a rut and I've been stuck in this place and I need to get out of it. And there were some videos that were posted that just kind of like fired you up and like got that fire started in your belly of like, fine, I'm going to do it the way this guy says to do it. And we're going to see if he's right, you know? And so that was, and it wasn't the coach, it's the fire in your belly of like, what's driving you, what's motivating you. And so I'm curious, like going into this next year, I mean, and as that went away, it's your discipline, right? That's kept you motivated through 2024, through coaching changes, health things that have come up, sickness that's come up, crazy big girl job that's demanding, oh yeah, by the way, you have a small business on the side that you're also growing. There's been drama within the space that you primarily work within,
Yeah.
really intense things where they're on a roller coaster ride. No one knows what's going to be happening stability wise with this larger entity. You know, like there's been a lot of chaos that you've been able to, for the most part, stay pretty steady through. And that's your discipline that's really kept you moving forward through all of that and just your commitment of like, no, this is what we're going to do. And so is it similar? Are you in a similar place where it's your discipline carrying you into 2025, or is there a fire in your belly going into 2025?
I don't think that fire ever left. I think it was just
Mm,
how to, like, it's been there from day one. I think the major thing this year was like learning how to pivot quickly because I had to
yeah.
pivot all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. Um, After Hillary, it was that, oh gosh, it was Pete. Oh, it was Pete. I was like, he's going to kill me. And then shifting to Pete, and that coaching style was so different. And then, Pete's role was, he knew going into it that it was going to be temporary. And then Miranda took over, and now it's a completely different shift. And Carolyn's style is a completely different shift than Hillary. So it was just like this constant, like pivot, 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 pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those things that you're saying, like, kept coming up, like I had to learn to shut the shit off. Honestly, like that was like the major thing this year. Is like I just had to turn it off. There was periods where, people would be reaching out and they're like, Athena, where are you? And I'm like, I'm still here, still doing the walk every day. Yep, rain, shine, whatever. But I just had to like turn it off. Like let's take the games. It's not that I was unaffected. I was deeply affected by it. There was a lot of like real raw emotion for me that week because I felt like, man, this is shifting a lot of things. Like people don't like this one is going to shift a lot of things. And it's like our home that we don't want to change, right? We want to keep that place exactly how it is for us. But I just turned it off. It was the same reason I decided not to go to the games. It was just like, I can't have like all that regular distraction. And then the later in the year that we get, and there's drama that happens in this community all the time with somebody said something on a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I had to like start playing little games. Someone would send me, like, I would see the story, like how you get those little teasers on your phone and you can tell whether somebody forwarded you something.
Yeah.
If the story or something like that, like 90% of the time I'd have to like, I don't want to know. I can't afford what is happening now.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to step away. I had to learn how to like just shut it all up.
That's really good. I think that's really hard for people to discern what truly is important for them to be consuming and what's not.
Yeah, because like one, you can overconsume. And then I think definitely something that surfaced again this year, that surfaced in previous years. I ended up writing so much about it in this book that's going to be coming out this year. And that's just this idea of identity and, the danger of making it our identity, so much so that when the slightest thing happens, our world turns upside down. Like, it took a long time for me to even be comfortable saying, like, look, I want the CrossFit methodology, to be a part of my life forever. But I don't want to be so close to it that when something devastating like what happened this year, it's not that I don't care. It was very scary for everyone. It's not about not caring. It's about, I don't want it to be so close that it's going to rip apart like my identity.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's so hard, is that I think people are compassionate, they're empathetic, they want to be there for their community, they wanna do these different things, but the reality is that not everything is about us, or something that we need to be involved in, and I think that that's been really hard during this, I don't know, last 6, 7 years of people driving awareness about different things going on in the world, things going on maybe a little bit closer to home, but really truly are not ours to carry or care about, because we're only like one person. And so we have a limit to what our capacity is. And that's really an uncomfortable thing for a lot of people. But there's going to be times when, yes, tragedy strikes and you're going to be motivated to participate. And that's going to be what you're called to do. But that's not every single time tragedy strikes. And so while situations may be very sad and very traumatic and awful for anyone that's close to the situation, it doesn't mean it's yours to participate in, or that you need to have an opinion on it, or that you need to be inserting yourself into it in any way. I think that's what's so hard with your position, being as well known in the community as you are. People look to you as a thought leader, but it's like, at the same time, hey, this is not something for you to have an opinion on or to participate in.
I had to do that a lot this time. And it was something that, like, I had to be very mindful of. Is, there was a lot of shakeup in the community this year, and it was like, Athena, what do you think? What do you think? And it's like, I don't have an opinion this time, and I'm not going to, again, it's not that I don't have eyes. It's not that I can't see. It's not that you can't be apathetic to the situation and feel it. But I also don't have to, like, this isn't something that I'm being called to participate in, just like you said. It's just not.
Yeah. And I think people are really used to, when someone goes on a weight loss journey or any kind of big endeavor, and there's someone that is within the public eye to a certain extent, they expect that you're going to share everything with them. Like, I think you reposted a guy who said, I'm done being um, the size that I am. And so he's documenting it every day until the weight comes off. And you're like, man, that's awesome. Don't let it burn you out from the process, because you get burnt out from the online piece of it.
I thought that too. And I think it boils down to, like, preference. I thought that that's what I wanted very early. And I thought, that I wanted everybody to have, I thought it was a good idea until it wasn't for me.
Right.
One, because it's exhausting. Like, it's literally exhausting. Like, trying to figure out, did I do a post today, or, was I in my stories today, or like, again, like, I'm not a content creator. That's not what
right. Right.
And like, even that word, like, content, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea until it wasn't. And so, like, I have fears for anybody that does that. Like, if you're doing it for consistency, great. But man, there's a lot of downsides that come to that. And just the sheer volume of people that reach out or that send you questions or whatever. And just the anxiety that I had about, like, I can't get back with everybody. I can't respond to everybody. I can't.
Well, and I think that people put that pressure on you too. And there can be that pressure of, like, oh man, if there's someone that's in a similar situation that I'm in, I have to respond to
feel
them
obligated,
because,
you
yeah. And
it was the same way I felt about, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna post up at least one meal a day. That was a good idea. until it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have fucking
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
answer questions every day about, well, like, why did you choose that meat instead of something else? Or, are you going to add grains? Like, don't you think it would be a good idea to show people that you can eat grains? I'm like,
Or
just
is that meat have too much fat? Is it too high
like,
fat content
yeah,
meat? Like,
like,
wait, is that too many carbs? Wait, I thought we weren't supposed to have sugar. Why are you having blueberries?
yeah. And so, exactly, right? Like, you said no sugar. Why are you eating pineapple and bananas? And, you know,
Yeah.
I just got to a point, like, it did not take very long to get to a point where I'm just like, I just don't have time for this nonsense.
Yeah, and I mean, it's well-meaning too, because people are curious and they wanna learn, and there's so much dogma, and so they're hoping maybe you'll, like, provide some clarity for them, and it's all good, it's just that this is not your job, and so, like, this is just something that you're sharing because you've become a person within the space. I mean, it's also promoting Scale Nation to a point, you elevating your profile, so in that sense, it could be considered part of your job, but at the same time, like, this is your personal journey. This isn't this is something that you have to flesh out and walk out, and if that means that people aren't a part of it, that means that people aren't a part of it. I think that's hard, and also I think people really care, and they wanna see you succeed, and social media is the way they get the updates on, like,
Oh,
how are you
no.
doing.
I love that part of it. I think here's the best way I can explain it. I knew, um, I knew going into this year that there were still things I needed to flesh out.
Mm,
And it's really hard to talk about it when you're in it.
yeah.
And you don't know how to talk about it because at the time that you're going through it, you don't know what it is. You don't know what the problem is. Like,
Mm,
why do I get this incessant urge to eat every single time I start getting even like my anxiety goes up 2 points? It's the first thing that crosses my brain.
mm,
Like, why has that always been there? Why is it still a thing?
yeah.
You're trying to sort stuff out. And I knew that, like, maybe I need more therapy. Maybe there's a couple of issues that still were not fully unwound this year. And so just learning how to balance social media with doing this, like, it's I had to do. Not to mention, I mean, like, not to mention there was people poking around that I just like, I'm not going to explain myself to you. Like, yeah, okay. You want to think that you're the greatest nutritionist on the planet? That's fine. Go poke around somebody else's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go watch someone else's stories.
I feel like
Um,
a lot of them were just looking for reasons to, like, pick. And I'm
yeah,
like, I wasn't going to participate.
yeah, yeah. So, you really have decided there's not much you're gonna do differently going into this next year. So, that means, like, routines gonna stay the same. The routine that Carolyn has you on in the morning and at night is gonna stay the same.
Well, yes and no. Those have evolved. Yes,
Mm,
the morning routine is there. There's a lunchtime routine that's there. There's a bedtime routine. All of these things, since Carolyn helped me implement those, are present. What's changed are, like, what gets put in those. You know,
mm,
like, I just had this conversation with somebody earlier today because I was like, I know that we do this thing and we try to do it every week and it's great. But the problem is that every week rolls around and I'm supposed to be doing this and something comes up. And it's like, at some point you have to be realistic and say, is this fucking working in this
yeah,
time? It's well intentioned, but it either works or it doesn't.
yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff that's been moved around.
Mm,
Routines are in place.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's good. What's been
Sometimes,
your favorite part of the routine?
um, I think for me, just probably very similar to how it was like when I first started the journey. And I learned how to make my bed every day. I was not a bed maker, but
Oh,
one of the very first things that I started with, like, way back when, was to make my bed. And one of the guy that was kind of made famous because he did this speech at UT, that was my graduating class, and
no way.
I'll never forget it as long as I live. It was the best thing that I ever heard, and I needed to hear that at right at the right time. And anyway, he's talking about making your bed. Just start the day with making your bed, because at the end of the day, you can say, I did something. And so I think what the routines did was like it carried this practice of, at the end of the day, if all goes to shit, which it does a lot, I can say these things that I started my morning with, they got accomplished, and I did something today. I never laid my head down a single day this year where I didn't say I got some stuff done, because I always did.
That's so good. That's so funny. I'm a bed maker too. And you'd think being married to a military guy, he would be the bed maker, and it's not true. I'm usually the first one out of bed, which you wouldn't think either. And so, because he loves me, he makes the bed.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't in the picture, he wouldn't be making his bed. But there's just something for me about having the bed made. It just makes it's just I think it's a great way to start your day is by making your bed.
It did. And for anybody that wants to know who that was, his name was William McCraven, and he actually wrote a book. It's called Make Your Bed. And anyway, phenomenal. And that simple little thing just changed everything. And so anyway, that's just what got carried over. It's like what little things become such habits. Don't think about it. Like literally making my bed is like one of those things where I can't even fathom spending any time thinking about it. It's so automatic now. Literally, I roll out of bed, I'm grabbing the other side of the covers, you know.
Yeah.
Ask my parents, it drives my mom crazy. It's like I'll go over to their house, and if it's like 11 and mom hasn't made her bed yet, it's like, are you serious right now? You know, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, that's good. That's good. And kind of, going back a little bit to us talking about social media, part of you having those healthy boundaries with it is you detach from social media at the end of every year as almost like a spiritual practice for yourself. And so I'm curious how this year's detachment went. It's like you hibernate. You like hibernate.
Yeah.
Because our weekly calls, people don't know that Athena and I have a weekly call that we do, and our weekly calls tend to stop during that time, and everything kind of comes to a halt, and Athena hibernates.
Well, it's easy to do because this is Minnesota, but I don't think most people know about this. I think there's a lot of people that really got taken by surprise. It was like November, and that's when the whole barrage of like, hey, where are you? What are you doing? Is everything okay? I'm like, I'm fine,
We need to have a social media post that says Athena is hibernating. We'll be back soon. And by soon we mean several weeks to a month.
Yeah. It started by accident, and then it kind of became like a practice. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I was thinking about that earlier today. It started the very first year that I got my goal books. And so that's when I would kind of take that time, and like starting in November. And then it just became like solidified, like when my parents started snowbirding and they started leaving for the season, it was kind of like, that's when life would just get really quiet for me. And it was kind of like my time to, this is the time to like reevaluate what's working, what's not, as you kind of plan ahead. What are you going to keep? What are you going to get rid of? What are areas of your life that, like Mel Robbins, for instance, she does the little fuel tanks. But if you look at any other thing like Cultivate What Matters, they do the, like the assessment. But it's all the same thing, right? You have your areas, your buckets, and then you go through this process of like rating them. Where are you at right now? And that's the time where like I look at those and I rescore them, and I look at them compared to where they were at the beginning of the year. And I'm like, okay, did I truly do everything that I wanted to do this year? And because there's still time, Like, don't waste the last 2 months. There's still time.
Yeah, that's really good.
So I call them like the goal books, but it's really not. It's like this is an assessment time. Um, am I still, why am I still doing what I'm doing? Am I still doing it for the right reason? I question myself, why are you doing it? There's a lot of things like some of my whys changed this year. Big whys changed.
Ooh, do you feel like sharing those?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So one of them was, my whole reason for doing this. I think way back when, and it continued up until this year when I was talking about my why with Gordon in March, like, why are you doing this? And it was very superficial at the time. At least I thought it was, like at the time, like I wanted to be like the first person to get to that like 300 club in CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
and like I want to be the one to lead this charge, and and that changed this year. I think a lot of that had to do with like my family and my parents, and I want to say it was like in August. I just kind of had a breakdown. Nothing happened. I didn't get off track or anything like that. It was just like this realization of, my dad is not a spring chicken anymore. And he can't, and I think it started with something like a home task or something I was doing around the house and realizing like, I know what it was. I know what it was. Okay. My brother got pissed off at me because he called, me and dad were outside, and we had started the fall cleanup, right? It's this process that we have to do every year here, and it's ridiculous. But one of the items was cleaning out the gutters. Dad is a diabetic, and he loses his balance. Like, he's almost 80 years old, and he just shouldn't be up on a ladder anymore. Mm-hmm. And so my brother called, and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" I can't remember what I said. I was like, "Well, we're working on this list, getting this done. Where's Dad? Dad's up pulling the leaves out of the gutter." I remember he was like, "Is he up on that fucking ladder?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It left my mouth, and immediately I felt terrible. And it was this realization, like, I have depended on my dad so much my whole life. Athena was the one that couldn't get up on the ladder. I was the one that couldn't fix stuff around my house because I couldn't get on the ground, or there was always a reason that I wasn't able to do something. Mm-hmm. And I felt terrible. And here I am, I'm crying, and I'm like, I have to, like, this has to stop. And suddenly it went from, like, I want to lead the charge in this area, and I want to be the first one in CrossFit to lose 300 pounds. That goal's still there. But like, this is about my family and being able to be there for them in ways that they've been there for me, and desperately wanting, like, my parents to see this, to have me see this through. I don't want my parents to see me struggle until they die. I want to be able to be like, "Hey, Mom and Dad, like, all those times that you were there for me," and like, they fucking moved up to Minnesota for me, Lindsey. Like, my parents moved here because they were worried about me. Granted, this wasn't my heaviest, and they could have gone back, now, but they moved here because of me. I want to be able to be able to not have my parents, like, get to their last days worried about me. So it just changed. It was a profound, like, part of that was like timing, because it was right after games. It was all this nonsense. I would turn on your typical podcast, just fucking noise. And it was like, suddenly this area right here is not as important as this area that has always been there for me. Yep. So it allowed me to just put life into perspective. It's not that those other things don't matter. Is that still a desire for me to set that 300 path? Fuck yeah. But this other thing, it's a bigger why. And it just evolved.
It's a way more important fire in your belly for 2025.
The fire's still there. It's just that the drivers are a little bit different this time.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay that those things change. I think that they needed to.
And I think those are the kind of whys that are more sustainable as far as they're going to keep you motivated for longer.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. Well, right, because for me, it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens over here. It's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it was good.
Oh, that's really good. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. And something fun, you and your mom, like speaking of your parents, y'all started doing a Bible study together, right?
We did.
How's that going?
We did. It's phenomenal. First of all, I can't believe that we're on 5 weeks now. We're going into our 5th week. It feels like we just started yesterday, but there was part of me.
Are y'all just doing like a chapter a week? How are you breaking it up?
Yeah. So there's a secondary like guide where it's like a recommended, like if you look it up online, it'll say, okay, do these chapters. And so it's basically like 3 chapters a day. It'll be like Genesis like 1 through 3, and then Genesis 3 through 6. So it's like 3, you know.
Oh, you're doing something different than what I thought you were doing. Are y'all doing the Bible recap, or what are you doing? I thought y'all were doing what Lies Women Believe together.
We are. If you go online, you can actually look it up. There's like a worksheet where it says recommended reading or how to break it up.
Oh, no way.
I'll have to send that to you because it lists out like, here's how to break it up.
Oh, that's amazing.
Either somebody did it or, you know.
Yeah.
So I'll have to send that to you, but that's how we're doing it. And I never thought that I'd want to read the Bible cover to cover. I'm not sure that was ever. I can't think of anything else I'd rather not do.
Yeah.
But like I fell in love with it like after week 1, and I'm like, okay, some of this stuff is like really interesting. And then I find that, our 2025 brains are trying to process some of this stuff, and it's comical. And I can't think of anybody else I'd rather want to hash it out with than Mom.
Yeah.
Because, I remember calling her one morning and I was like, okay, listen, here's what I don't understand. And I can't remember what chapter it was where, so we started with Genesis, we went into Exodus, and now we're doing Matthew, right?
Yeah.
So I called my mom up and I'm like, look, I don't mean to be like, but there's just something I don't understand. She's like, what's that? And I was like, why did God have this hang up about circumcision? If he wanted, because he was very specific, and he's like, but there's a lot of chapters like that where I'm like, look, if he wanted it to be this way, why weren't men created this way?
Right. Yeah.
Or, and again, like my today brain is going back, like, why was this such a big damn deal? Like, why was this such a big deal?
Yeah.
But it's cool. I've loved it. I've invited people to it. I think it's awesome and it's great. And we're going to get through the whole Bible this year. It's awesome.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Has there been one thing that's like stuck out to you or had the biggest impact on you so far?
We're not very far along.
Yeah.
Yes. I think one of the biggest takeaways I've had so far is, so I'm reading, right? And one of the section was dealing with the very, very, very specific instructions, not just specific instructions for the ark, the tabernacle, right? Mm-hmm. But like how it was going to be made, and the robes that needed to be worn, and this and this and this and this and
yeah.
literally chapters upon chapters of it needs to be this, and this long, and this long. It needs to be made out of this, and it needs to be. And again, we're having this weekly check-in with my mom, and I'm like, look, I'm never going to remember this stuff. I'm never going to remember I'm not like, why do I care whose father was father's father? And there's like a whole book on like, he was the son of this person, and this was person, the son of this person, and it goes on and on and on and on. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, why do I care? Why would I care?
Yeah.
And I think we've had this conversation already so many times that like what we were talking about on Sunday was essentially like, there's a bigger lesson here. And the bigger lesson is it's not always our understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Control, part of it is something like we need to let go of. It's not up to me to, like the need to understand and know the why for everything. Like it's not always up to us to understand the why or the how, or it just is. And you just got to be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I think I was recently listening to a podcast for questions around like culturally, why was this happening? Or like, why would God have written in circumcision, those kinds of things? There's a guy named Wesley Huff who's really awesome at answering a lot of those questions. But he made a really good point where he said the Bible was written for us, but it wasn't written to us. And what he's saying is the Bible was written for us, but it was written in a very different cultural time and context. And so part of understanding it is understanding the culture and the times and like why would it be so important for these different aspects to be here, like the genealogy, eyes glaze over. It's so boring. But if you're reading it from a Jewish context, it shows how Jesus is the fulfillment of all these prophecies in the Old Testament and that he is the promised Messiah, the promised Savior. And but I love that being able to come to a place where you're like, okay, God, like you have it all figured out. I don't, and I can trust you in that, even when this stuff is really weird to me.
Like this doesn't make any sense, but I'm just gonna trust that and on this reason it's not for me. Like I give up.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what one of them was. One of them was bread with no yeast. Okay, the whole bread with no yeast came up multiple times. So I'm like, what is the big deal about the bread?
Yeah.
And it was driving me crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But something really wild came out at the end of that week. This was last week. Okay. And we're still in the hibernation season. I kind of come out of that every year about this time in January.
Yeah.
Okay. I've reignited like those fires. This was the same fire that was ignited last year, that came out of last year, like I'm going to do this really bold, crazy thing. Well, something much more simple this year, but it made me take a look at like my life, like my day, my routine. And something that was coming up over and over and over again in those first 3 books was, Sunday belongs to God. And something that simple made me look at like, I need to clear Sunday. I need to clear Sunday. I can't work on Sunday. I can't work on Scaled Nation on Sunday. I can't do all the things that I've been doing on Sunday. Like I have to just breathe. So what can I do that? Like, I feel like this is what the Bible's telling me. So I'm like, what can I do the rest of the week to ensure that you can get all these stuff done? And then Athena Sunday is just for you and God.
That's really good.
So like, what can you do to make that happen so that you do truly, when Carolyn says you need a day of rest, I apply a much bigger spectrum. I'm like, no, we truly need a day of rest. This isn't just like a rest from the workout. This is a rest from everything.
Yeah.
So I've been learning a lot. It's comical. It's fun. It's my mom. And
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation because I bet your mom's commentary is 1, hilarious, but then 2, also really good and very grounding and very wise.
It's so cool. I think to do it with your parents is just, it's fun.
Yeah. I love that. That's really neat. That's really neat. So one more thing I wanted to make sure that we talked about tonight is the newsletter. I'm loving the newsletter that you have going out.
I
It's so good.
so thank you. I don't know what took so long to get that out because, again, I'll tell you how the newsletter was born. The newsletter was born from, like, again, when you're trying to do as much as I'm trying to do, like, there's no time. There's no time.
Yeah.
By the time that, if you split your day, right, and like it's like you do in the beginning of Cultivate What Matters, right? You your day, you have 8 hours minimum you need to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
8 hours a day I work. I have a really big job that demands a lot of Athena's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Why I always do that, by the way. I always talk in the third person. I need to stop that.
It's great. It's great. Athena's big girl job. Yep.
Big girl job. So that leaves 8 hours a day, right? And it's like, how are you going to utilize that 8 hours? And you think it's a lot of time, but it's not. You start adding in like, okay, I need my workout time. There's 45 minutes gone. Because by the time you warm up and you cool down, 45 minutes, boom, gone. And then all the time, from the time that you wake up to the time that you go make your cup of coffee to the time that you're like, okay, I need to check and see what I'm doing today. I need to get in the shower. I need to get in my morning walk. I need to do all these things. You have burned through half of your free time. Half. From the time that I wake up in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning, that is half of my free time for the entire day. And it was like, I can't spend all this time on Instagram anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I can't. I just can't. So the newsletter was kind of a way to like be able to like share the blogs, talk about like, here's what I see, here's some of the stuff that I'm thinking about, or here's what's going on, or here's little things that just make my life better or make me laugh. And it's a way for me to keep in touch and, pose the challenges to like my audience and ask them some really thoughtful questions that they can think about, that week without me having to like, it's a way for me to involve and do that without having to spend time doing what I was doing. Not to mention like that list, being there, and again, I don't think people really knew this either, but Being There's been around since 2004. It has been a massive following since 2004.
Yeah, you have an insane number of email subscribers on that list who still open their emails from 2004.
Who
That
still
open rate, unreal. Unreal.
It was higher today, by the way.
I guess every marketer's
why am I not utilizing these super loyal people?
I mean, it is probably 10x the exposure you're getting on Instagram right now.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's so
Without
good.
a doubt.
Why am I not I was sitting there in the car with Andrew when we were texting about it, and I was like, babe, her open rate is 3 times what I would have been excited about when I was in marketing. Like the rate that I would have been like, yes, we crushed it. Hers is 3 times that.
What's really interesting, and that's something that I learned this year. It's something that I learned this year. Like, I didn't start off the year to like have a YouTube channel. And do I ever think like, yeah, I'll probably continue this because I enjoy it, but it's not, the numbers over here are so small. And I'm like, because YouTube isn't my jam. When I think about like every single person, like they have an audience, Some people do really, really well on YouTube. Some people do really, really well on Instagram, whatever your platform is of choice. But there's also that part of me that needs to remember, like, how did this start? This started because Athena was writing. I was a blogger. This started on the Blogger platform. I think I was trying to remember the other day what it was before Blogger. But like, when I wrote,
MySpace.
Okay. So this is how much I had MySpace. Like I was on MySpace and Blogger. The day that I wrote like my first blog back when, was the same weekend. I'll never forget this day as long as I live, and there's a reason why I'm never going to forget it. Michael, my who's now my ex, he was my fiance at the time. We had to go to the UT Law School reunion.
Okay.
So it was the same weekend as like the West Point reunion. But so we had to go to West Point, and then the following weekend we had to go to the law school reunion.
Yeah.
So we were at this law school reunion, and they were having like this, everybody was like in the, I don't know what it was, like a big auditorium. And every 30 minutes they would bring this new speaker on. And we were like 2 speakers in, and there's this guy that comes out, and he's talking about this new thing on the web that we all need to get involved in, right? And we're listening. I'm looking at Mike. Mike's looking at me a couple times, and I'm like, I don't get it. So he went through this whole thing, and I'm looking at him. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get why we would ever use that. So let me tell you what it was. So they were looking for people that would be willing to invest in this new platform called Twitter. They did their whole presentation. Okay. They did their whole.
Wait. There were people there looking for investors in Twitter.
They wanted people to invest. They were pitching this idea. They were like, this is going to be
oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Greatest thing in the world, and you have to get involved. And I'm looking at Mike, and I'm like, this is the stupidest shit I have ever seen. Why would anybody want to tweet? Like, why would I want people to know what I'm thinking? First of all, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Michael looked at me. He said, this is fucking stupid. We're talking to everybody at the law school thing. Everybody's chatting. We're all looking. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I wish. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never forget that day as long as I live, because I really misread the room that day. Really, really misread the room. It's a great learning lesson. But, you know, here I am. I could have been a millionaire. I could have dropped $1,000 that day, and here we are, you know?
Yeah.
But it was great. It was great. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, I got to watch the birth of something, and that was the birth, truly.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Like the idea was so new that it wasn't even a website yet. It was like it was a PowerPoint presentation on a screen. Here's what it's going to do, and they're showing us the proposed UI of the site. Here's what it's going to do. Here's all the great things, and you can just tweet. And everybody's looking at each other like, why would we want to do that? They can't even become a. Anyway, so it was memorable, to say the least.
Amazing. That's amazing. So, final question.
Yeah.
Do you have a word for this year?
I do. That's also what that's also what I'm doing in the fall. It's like, I need to find that word that resonates into like my Northern Star for the year. You know, last year it was consistency, because I knew that consistency was my problem.
Yeah.
At the heart of everything, I knew that I already knew what to do. You know, here I am. I'm a coach. I know how to do all the things. It's so stupid, you know, but I don't. And I recognized that, and I admitted it. Now, this year, it was like, okay, what is that Northern Star? We're not having a problem with consistency. We're as consistent as I can be. Mm-hmm. There's days that aren't perfect. There's days that I don't get my workouts in. Run out of time. But I needed like a word that was going to like drive what made sense. And so on my little card, it says, okay, in order for you to achieve what you're going to in 2024, you need to be consistent. So this year it's the same. In 2025, you need to persist to achieve your goals. It basically is saying, like, look, I've looked at all these pieces, and really it doesn't come down to, there's nothing that needs to change. There's nothing dramatic that needs to happen. You just need to be able to continue, knowing that you didn't get to get up on your podium on January 15th and be like, look, I did everything I said I was going to do. You're still going to do everything you said you were going to do. It's just going to be a different date. And you have to be okay with letting that go. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, keep waking up, keep getting the workouts in, keep doing all the things. Just keep doing it. Yeah. Keep doing exactly what you're doing right this second. And that was it. So persistence, this year's word.
I love it. That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. Well, I have one piece of advice going into 2025.
What?
Don't be posting tiny photos of people kissing in your stories if you don't want people messaging
you. So
I was just on the phone with her 30 minutes ago. I'm like holding down the screen. I'm like, what is this ish that she did not mention to me? What is this?
No, I assure you, if it truly was like, that little place. So I should tell everybody that little place is where I'm using to it's just to post photos or videos that matter to me. Sometimes they're my family. Sometimes, like the other day, it was like my dog.
Love it. And that's a super cute picture of your parents. I would have that framed on my wall somewhere. It's so great.
Everybody was like,
so little. Everyone's going, what? I was like, this is soft launch? What in the world?
No, it was great. It was great because exactly what you asked me that day was absolutely true. How many people? Probably more than 100 people all day long. It was like,
I gave you credit. I was like, I'm going to assume right now that this isn't what it looks like and that there's a story behind this and that she didn't just forget to tell me something.
It was great. It was great. That was the best funny I've had in a while.
That's so good. That's so good. All right, girl. Well, I love you a lot. This has been really good.
That was fun.
As always.
As always, I'll talk to you on the next one. I love you, sister.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.